We're back here in the sandwich shop. I am Hoagie, and today we are going to be putting all of the Overwatch League teams into a tier list based off of their current branding. So this includes the Soul Infernal and the Vegas Eternal, as well as our other 18 teams that are represented in the Overwatch League. You guys can do this too. If you go over to Tier Maker, look up Overwatch League Teams 2023. You'll see the tier list that I've made. It has all the updated logos and things like that. And we are going to talk about each of these teams, rank them, and all we're basing this off of is their logo, their colors, their uniform, their name, right? I know brand, and look, I work in esports. I work in esports marketing. I know a little bit about branding. I am not by no means a graphic designer or anything like that. But I want us to look at this with fresh eyes. Now I'm wearing a Houston Outlaws hat. That's going to bias me a little bit. I'm willing to admit that. I'm willing to put that forward for you. But I want to try to look at this with fresh eyes. Let's try to see some shit we ain't never seen before. And we're going to rank these solely based off of my own personal preference of the way the team is visually branded. We're not going to think about things like their social media voice. We're not going to think about things like their roster compositions over time, about their success or failures in the league. This is purely from a visual standpoint, and we're going to take our sweet ass time doing it, boys and girls. All right, so let's hop into this. We have the Atlanta Reign up first. So I obviously have these things in my tier maker, but we're going to look at jerseys. We're going to look at we'll look at their merch and things like that as well. So let's get into this. So, all right, the first thing we've got the Atlanta Reign, who was one of our expansion teams in season 2. I don't think that they have gone through any kind of significant rebrands over the course of these 4 years. I think we basically had the same exact logo. And I got to tell you, man, this logo feels totally like uninspired for me. You're going to notice a trend as we go through these teams that we have a lot of black and red teams represented throughout the Overwatch League. And I think like just fiery bird inside of a crest. Looking at this, I'm not seeing anything that screams Atlanta. I don't know if there's like what the logic was behind choosing the name Reign when looking at Atlanta, but I'm just totally unmoved by the Atlanta Reign brand, to be honest with you, just visually. I do think that this jersey especially is actually pretty tight. This one feels like an Atlanta Falcons jersey. And is that what it is? Is that what? Sorry, my cat's getting into this box over here. Is the bird logo like a bastardization of the Atlanta Reign of the Atlanta Falcons? I will say I love this peach jersey that they had when was this season 2? Season 2 or 3? I think it was 2, where each team did these like city inspired jerseys, and I think this Atlanta one was one of the best. And in fact, if they went for this peach color as their actual primary color versus the red and black, this would go up significantly on the tier list for me. But I think as it stands now, I have to put the Atlanta Reign in the C tier. It's just totally uninspired. It's a color scheme that we're going to see multiple times throughout our discussion here. But yeah, I'm gonna put that firmly in the C tier. All right, let's move on. We're going in alphabetical order here. So we have the Boston Uprising. All right. Now we're getting into, I think, a little bit like better design. What was the Boston Academy team? Was it Boston Academy? Overwatch. What was it? Was it just called Boston Uprising Academy? Was what it was called. And they had a really I like the like variation of the logo that they had here. Has that same like composition put into the A. But for the Boston Uprising, I love the yellow and blue. I like the like two primary color approach. This is definitely more like traditional sports branding versus esports. So like if we went and we looked at like League of Legends North America logos. I meant to like look at teams. So like if we looked at like Team Liquid, right? So Team Liquid logo, we've got they have like the little accent of gold here, right? But it's one primary color and then like a neutral color with the white. Same thing. We have like the TSM logo. It's the black and the white. It's very basic. It's very bold in that way. If we look at like the FlyQuest logo, again, like we have this very bold primary color, then a neutral white. If we look at my team that I work for, the Golden Guardians, we've got the bold gold on the black background. But if you look at like their old logo, right, like this Golden Guardians, this is more of like a traditional sports logo. It's two primary colors. So if you think about like the most popular teams, right, like New England Patriots, it's red, white, and blue. If you think about like the Green Bay Packers, it's like bright yellow, bright with like a rich green, right? So this is more of like a traditional sports approach versus like what the Atlanta Reign was doing, which is very esports, like the bold red on the black or the gray. Boston is kind of leaning more into that traditional sports branding, and the Boston Uprising, owned by the Kraft Group, who owns the New England Patriots and other sports franchises as well. And so leaning more into that color scheme, I think it's cool. I do like the structure of the logo, like the B leading into the U. It's creative. It doesn't try to like do anything too kitschy with the idea of like the uprising itself. No like weird arrow or like a fist in the air or anything like that. So like I think it's mild. It's subtle. And I think because of that, it's good. And then I love their jerseys. I'm trying to remember, and just for my own posterity's sake, I'm going back and looking at I want to look back at I think these were their alternates, right? These alternates are okay. I see what they were going for. They're like going for this like kind of soccer kit kind of look, I think. But yeah, I'm not like super sold on that. But if you look at R2, I think the black on the navy or the like royal blue looks really, really good. And I love the boldness of these jerseys as well. So honestly, I think I'm going to have to put the Boston Uprising in like the A tier. I think they have a very unique approach to their color scheme. I think their jerseys look really cool. And we'll try to organize our teams within the tiers as well. So as we move stuff into the A, we'll put them above or under the Boston Uprising. All right, let's go to the Guangzhou Charge. All right, so so I was looking at these logos a little more like closely and intently. Actually, I just realized I'm covering up the logo, the photos that I'm pulling up. So I'm gonna put my face here. So I was looking at these logos again today with like some fresh eyes as I was putting together this content. Let me tell you the story. Do you guys remember these? Like, hold on. Jesus in the negative space. Anyone ever seen one of these signs? It's like raised wood. your mom or your grandma may have had it on their mantle or something like that. It's like pieces of raised wood on a regular piece of wood. So one day I'm in middle school and I had a sick day and I stayed home from school. We had one of these signs sitting on our TV stand in the living room. From the time I was little, like for as long as I can remember, we had this sign. We had one very similar to this. And I had never this is gonna make me sound like a dumbass. I had never noticed, after looking at this thing for years, I had never noticed that it said the word Jesus in it. And so one day I'm at home. I was home sick from school and I was like running a high fever. I was like a little delirious. And I remember that I had taken like some NyQuil, but I was watching The Price is Right. You guys know what it was like. When you were a kid, you were staying home from school, you were like watching the same episode of SportsCenter 4 times, and then you were going to watch The Price is Right, and then you were going to watch like Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown after that, right? Like that was the cadence of staying home from school sick. So I'm delirious, I'm high on NyQuil, I'm watching The Price is Right. I look down, and for the first time in my life, after seeing this sign 100 times over, I finally see the name Jesus inside of it. And I had this like moment of panic and epiphany and was like, can I read in tongues? I grew up in a very religious household, semi-religious household. But my brain was like seeing this with fresh eyes for the very first time. It says Jesus in the negative space. I have seen this Guangzhou Charge logo from the time that they came into the league in season 2. This was the very first fucking time I'd noticed that there was a goddamn lightning bolt in the middle of the G and the Z. I could read in tongues here, and I can finally see in tongues here as well. It elevated the logo to me, because I used to look at this and think, that's just a G and a Z. Like, what's that? Like, you just took your initials, Guangzhou, the initial, the 2-letter moniker for Guangzhou, and just slapped it in a logo. Now, that's positive points. However, that then forces me to take some negative points because they doubled up on the lightning bolt in the R. If this was just Guangzhou like Charge, the same sort of italicized bold sans serif font without the little, in the little lightning bolt redundant for this, and maybe this is the reason I didn't see this earlier. Right? Maybe that's the way I justify not being a total fucking dumbass when it comes to not having seen this lightning bolt. But yes, I had more respect for it here, and then I lose respect for it again down here because it's like they didn't trust themselves in their design, right? Like, oh, we're going to hide it here, and just in case people miss it and we didn't do it well enough, we'll put it down here too. So, kind of a net 0 on positive negative gains for me today. Hoagie is risen. It is true. I have risen. And I can now read Jesus in the negative space here. I'm such a dumbass. I was, and this wasn't like I freaked out for like a moment kind of story. I freaked out until my NyQuil knocked me out and I passed out. And then like when my mom got home afterwards, I was like, Mom, I finally see it. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? So yeah, net 0 on positive from the lightning bolt here versus the lightning bolt down here. I will say this. I feel so much when I look at this logo that I almost feel nothing. Like, for everything that I feel about the lightning bolts, I feel the same way kind of about the colors. Like, this kind of 3-tiered approach to blue where you've got kind of like this ocean blue, and then this like electric teal, and then this like navy blue. I would have been cooler if they would have just leaned into, like, I really like this logo right here. Like, nix the ocean blue. Let's lean into the electric blue and the navy blue. Have that be our logo versus something like this, right? Where, oh, if we put it on this background, we got to go to like a gray text and really just like change it up. And then you could still use like the sandy blue to like accent like they did in this, you know, departure graphic and things like this. Like, I think this is cool. But I think in their official branding, I would have been much cooler if they just picked one of, or I'm sorry, two of these three blues. I think going for all three of them makes me feel less confident about any of them. And so I think I'm going to have to put Guangzhou. I think I'm going to put the Charge in the B tier. I think they do some really, really good things. And I think, you know, now that you've seen it, you always see it. And now I just feel I'm going to feel like a dumbass every time I see this lightning bolt and this logo. I think this is more creative. I think this is, I think they're trying a little harder than what the rain were doing with this logo. So going to put them in the B tier. Oh, we didn't look at their jerseys. Let's look at their jerseys real quick. So yeah, I don't think the jerseys do much for me anyway, because it would have been cooler if they'd have went like one version that's the navy blue with the electric blue center, and then did like the inverse of that rather than like just leaning into the black on the alternate version. And then did they have an alternate jersey? I don't think every team did an alt jersey. No, it does not look like they had an alternate jersey. So I feel good about them being in B, and interested in, you know, if you're watching on YouTube in the comments or if you're hanging out over here on Switch, like, you can totally disagree with me on where I'm putting these. All right, let's go to the Chengdu Hunters. Oh, I'm very sorry. I just like snorted into my. All right, the Chengdu Hunters. I gotta say, I have some real problems with this branding that might all be overcome by the fact that I just fucking love this panda. So the first is that Chengdu Hunters is a very aggressive name. And they've done just about everything that you can do to make a panda look aggressive. But does this panda look mean to you? Like, ignore the claws in this, right? He looks just sleepy. Let's go to YouTube. I just don't think there's anything. We're gonna mute this. Like, look at this thing. I think aren't pandas omnivores or herbivores? No, pandas are herbivorous. They're herbivores. They only eat bamboo and these plants. Look at this thing. Like, yeah, it's got mean-looking teeth. But there ain't nothing hunter about a panda. This thing's fucking adorable. Look at that. Is anyone terrified? Is this panda taking a shit? What is this panda doing? Like, are pandas meat? Yeah, that's let's just zoom in on their shit here. Wait, do they poop 100 times a day? A panda poops 100 fucking times a day? Hold on.
Producing more than 4 of undigested, since they don't digest bamboo.
Hey, I'm just gonna say this right now. Whatever happens in the next 15 seconds might heavily impact my perception of the Chengdu Hunters logo. All right, you guys, whatever happens.
And poop. Since they don't digest bamboo very well, pandas end up passing a lot of it as waste, which unsurprisingly contains a lot of undigested bamboo bits.
Look, I feel like the moment that you watch something poop,
pandas defecate more than 100 times a day.
That's fucking crazy. There's no way. That's insane. They poop 100 times a day. Couple things here. Number one, pandas are herbivores. They're not hunters. They don't hunt anything. You know, they're not violent creatures. They're giant. They're fat. They're lazy, just like me. And for that, I can relate to the Chengdu branding. But to equate that to a hunter is difficult. I also feel like any animal that you've seen take a shit like that takes the edge off a little bit. It takes the edge off a little bit. Like, if I had to fight somebody and you were like, hey, before you fight this person, here's a video of them taking a shit, I'm going to feel less threatened by that person because of it. And now that I've watched this video and watched this panda take a shit and know that it does that 100 times a day, I'm far less terrified. I wasn't even terrified before. I'm less terrified now. So I think hunters with a panda, very weird, very weird name, very weird approach to naming your team. And then the color scheme is fucking terrible. I'm all fine with the brown and orange. I think brown and orange is really cool, like a really good color combination. You know, kind of like the Cleveland Browns. Where the wheels start to fall off for me is the tan. The wheels really start to fall off with the tan uniforms. So these are awesome. The black uniforms with the, light orange, or if they had like a dark brown jersey with the orange, I think that could look cool. But the tan, Abstaker says, how did you get from Overwatch to panda poop? And the way we got from here to here is we're talking about the Chengdu hunters. And they're pandas. And I was looking up whether or not pandas are actually hunters. They're not. They're herbivores. And then I was like, let's watch some cute videos of pandas. And then we learned that they fucking shit 100 times a day. So that's the route we took. That's how we got here. And the Chengdu hunters, I think, because of all of this, because the name doesn't make a whole lot of sense outside of just like geographically, I think, there's like, do pandas live in Chengdu? Okay, there are currently over 30 giant pandas and 5 red pandas living at the base. Okay, so it does look like there are pandas in Chengdu. So, like, culturally, geographically, it makes sense, right? But I think everything else about this branding, it doesn't get me. Like, I like that they're doing different things with their colors. They're taking some risks, but I still just don't like the tan. I'm going to put them in the C tier. I'm going to put them above the Atlanta Rain, though. Above the Atlanta Rain, because I don't think the name makes sense. I think the color scheme's a little weird, but I think they're trying to do something more inspired than what the Atlanta Rain were doing. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Dallas Fuel. All right. First of all, a little bit of negative points for me from the Dallas Fuel because every other team has a logo structure where the logo is at the top and then they have the name underneath it. And Dallas does not have that. So, minor points off for me there. However, I think this branding is really, really cool. They're leaning into this 2 blue hue. They're doing what I wanted Guangzhou to do with their 2 versions of blue, with their 3 versions of blue, which was pick 2 and lean into that and go fully in that direction. Fuel makes a lot of sense for Dallas. It's the land of oil. Whether good or bad, however you may feel about that. one of the OG teams of the Overwatch League. I think had really strong branding when they were, I say that, and then I look back and I totally fucking forgot about the giant goddamn Jack in the Box logos that they had on these jerseys. And they had them on these too, but for some reason, putting it over on the shoulder makes it look a little more traditional. It looked like they were the fucking Dallas Jack in the Boxes back when they had XQC. First of all, this picture here, XQC, Nikki, Custa, this fills me. We got Seagull over here. This picture fills me with a lot of nostalgia. And the fact that Mickey stayed on this team as long as he did. But their new jerseys, this is their new jersey layout. Love it. I think it looks really good on the black, and they're still leaning into both of their colors here. Honestly, it pains me to do this as a Houston fan, but Dallas is definitely S tier branding. Propane and propane accessories, exactly. They should have been the Dallas Hank Hills. The Dallas Hank Hills. All right. I'm going to put them in the S tier. All right, let's go to the Florida Mayhem. Honestly, one of the stronger brandings in the Overwatch League, and I think one of the great we fucked up, we're going to make it right stories in Overwatch League branding. So everybody remembers the fucking Ronald McDonald Florida Mayhem, right? Season 1, strolling in their fucking bright ass yellow Ronald McDonald ass jerseys. And everybody knew, like, hey, why in the world would you not just lean into Miami Vice and go here? I feel like the Florida Mayhem, they stole the Cotton Candy team's colors. I think they did this the same year as the Cotton Candy team. Honestly, I've never seen this before. This could have been a really cool approach too, with the blue and purple. I feel like nowadays we look at this and we're like, oh man, the Miami Vice, this kind of like vaporwave is a little played out. But I think Florida was kind of not on the cutting edge of it, definitely, but I think they were there early enough that they get a pass. Like, when did the Miami Vice jersey, when did they intro these? So they started to intro the Miami Vice jerseys in 2020, 2021. And this was a year after the Mayhem rebrand, right? Well, here was the 2019 version of it. So I don't know. I think it's strong. I love their logo. They're the Junkrat team. They've got, the bombs here formed into the M. I love that they use the palm tree as the lit fuse. The more you look at this, the more there is to uncover about it, and the better it is. And then, you look at their jerseys, and their jerseys just play up on that as well. Love the pink. Love how the pink stands out against the black as well. It just looks great. So we are going to put the Mayhem in S tier as well. And I feel like they go over Dallas in the S tier. Everyone with me on that? Florida Mayhem over the Dallas Fuel in the S tier. The more I'm looking at this too, the more this Boston Uprising logo looks fucking ridiculous in the A tier. So I'm going to move this actually down to the B tier, but over Guangzhou, because it has more direction. More bold decisions were made in the Uprising logo than the Charge logo. I also think these teams that came in the year after had a benefit because they got a chance to see what made other Overwatch League team branding so good. All right, let's talk about Hangzhou Spark. This is who my wife calls the Cotton Candy team. So Hangzhou Spark. Honestly, I'm a little biased. I fucking love the Hangzhou Spark. I've always loved their branding. My wife thinks this is the best branding out there as well. Love the cotton candy colors. I love that it's like similar to the Florida Mayhem, but it's muted in such a way that makes it just as bold. I know that maybe doesn't make any sense, but like I think they made some unique decisions. Like you don't see another team in esports or traditional sports branded like this, using these kinds of colors. Like you're going to be hard pressed to find a team that's doing what the Hangzhou Spark are doing with their logo. I think the finger gun thing is cool. We see the finger guns coming up in, their branding. When they like take the stage in their intro, they do the finger gun thing. It's something that their fan base does as well. I think it's a branding that leans itself heavily into I think it is a very well-rounded brand. So also I'm just a big Gushui fan who longtime member of the Hangzhou Spark. But yeah, I think these were their primary jerseys of season 1, I think. I think they had an alternate jersey though. Yeah, I think they had an alternate jersey though. I have this jersey as a Gushui jersey. It's in a frame right next to me. I could get it out, but it's like wedged back here. I haven't hung them up yet. So yes, they had these. I love these alternate jerseys. I think their brand new jerseys are great too. Or their more recent jerseys. Yeah, I love this. S tier is getting a little crowded. We might have to move some stuff around in the S tier, but I do think that the Spark. I think the Spark go above Mayhem because Mayhem is leaning on a lot of things that already exist within like Florida Miami culture. Hangzhou made something wholly in and of themselves and just did it to perfection. All right. Let's talk about the Houston Outlaws. I'm going to try to set my bias aside, but I will say this. If you look up anybody talking about the Houston Outlaws branding, you're going to find mostly people talking positively about it. OG team picked an OG color with the electric green. Leaned heavily into it. I love the electric green. I've got this same hat in that electric green. They went with the kind of more traditional esports approach to their color palette, where they just allowed that green to stand on their own. I think this logo design is maybe the best logo design in the league. Let me look through real quick and make sure I'm not missing anything. No, I will say definitively the Houston Outlaws have the best logo design in the league. The two guns, the Cassidy guns here, making the bull face. And this isn't something that I had to take a bunch of NyQuil and come home delirious to see. I think this is excellent. The one thing that I will say about this branding is that when I go out, I live in Los Angeles. I live in LA and I talk like this. I've got a very thick, not a very thick. I have a noticeably thick country accent to people who live in LA. And when I walk around wearing this hat and people see me and hear me talking as I wear this hat, with no knowledge of what the Overwatch League is, they draw some assumptions about who I am as a person and what I like to do as an individual in ways that don't particularly align with who I am as an individual. So, and that's not anything to discredit Houston by any stretch. I'm definitely not saying that. But for me personally, I'm always a little self-conscious when I wear this logo out. But I'm the perfect storm of people who should be worried about that. That's what the liberal elites want me to think. That's right. But back to the logo itself. Sick logo, sick colors, great font choice, great name choice for the team. And again, I think we're making the S tier a little heavy, so we're gonna have to go back, which is well within my right. But let's go look at their jerseys. And they did have alternate jerseys, and I think their alternate jerseys sucked ass. I get what they were trying to go for. They were trying to go for like the old school Houston Astros jersey. So this is what they were going for. And I don't know. I think if they would have done this same exact jersey, just with Outlaws, no Houston, and no giant logo, this would have been better. Oh, I'm sitting here talking about it, not showing it. So this is the old school. This is like the callback to the throwback Houston jerseys. Here's the old school Houston jerseys. So as an homage, I think the idea was cool. I don't think the execution was quite there. I think maybe leaning less into like this poop green stripe in the middle and then taking the logo away and then just having Outlaws here would have been the play. But I love what they were going for. But if we look at their current jerseys, no, these are their old jerseys. I will say this: I miss the days of teams having a little more control over what their jerseys looked like. I wish Overwatch League allowed their teams a little more creativity, but I think just the way these look on their jerseys, the way the colors present themselves on their jerseys is really cool. I have this long sleeve white jersey, but yeah, I would say from a branding perspective, I'm going to put Houston actually probably above Mayhem, but below Spark. All right, let's move on to the LA Valiant. All right, so I don't remember particularly reading about why so the LA Valiant have had 3 color changes throughout their history. So this was the first that they had. So this was when Custa got traded to the Valiant in the middle of season 1. They win the stage 4 finals, and they had this like kind of bright green and yellow approach to their jerseys. I think it was a little too like primary on primary, and it didn't look that great. And then in season 2, they switched to like a hunter green with the yellow. And then they moved to competing in the APAC region and moved to this like light blue and yellow. And of the 3, I would say this is maybe the best color combination. Very similar to like the, LA Chargers jerseys. With the powder blue and yellow. So like I get what they were going for. It just doesn't, I don't know. I think to me, the number of changes that Valiant has gone through with their logo and then with, them moving into the APAC region, like I just don't feel any consistency or like long-term attachment to the LA Valiant brand. The Mercy helmet I think is pretty cool, but other than that, like I'm not totally moved by the Valiant logo. To be honest, this rebrand that this person put in their portfolio is sick. I love this. Like, this is almost too subtle for the V, and this is just enough. Even though this kind of looks Goodyear-ish, right? But, looking at their primary, looking at their color combinations here, I don't know. I think this is really just, like, phoned in. Like, they just took something that was already kind of represented in the game and just didn't do a whole lot to change it other than putting the V in the negative space. And I think because of that, we're gonna have to put LA Valiant in the D tier. All right. How we feeling so far, guys? Are we agreeing with where I'm putting these things? Are there things that you think should be in different areas of the tier list? Yeah, curious to know what everybody is thinking in terms of how this is coming together so far. Because I think we're about halfway through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 11 more to go. All right, let's go to the London Spitfire. I'm going to be honest with you. I think London does something with their logo that a lot of teams and companies would really struggle to do, which is make a cohesive brand out of 3 really, really strong colors. So I don't think this is something you see much in sports or traditional or esports. I think the history of the Spitfire planes in, like London World War II history, I think is really, really cool. I think it's an interesting, Cloud9 has stake in the London Spitfire. I think it's cool, the steps taken to get from Cloud9 to London Spitfire as a team brand. And I think it's something that doesn't fully lean on the parent team's branding they created a strong identity for themselves very, very early on. I think this logo is absolutely sick looking head on. I'm heading to bed. Don't let those panda facts ruin your night. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try really hard not to, but it really ruined pandas for me. So I'm going to watch this part of it real quick. Yeah, pandas are awesome. Hold on. We'll just look at that smile. That's not a hunter at all. We'll put there's a little, looks a little phallic over here, but just focus on the panda. But yeah, I think the Spitfire's branding is really, really strong. I like that they're, I think, the only team that incorporates the name of their city into the logo itself. And other than, NYXL does it. I did not choose a great logo for the San Francisco Shock here, but they do a lot of creative things here. I do think that the colors, like the 3 colors, while they're used really well, I think do overcomplicate it. One thing we haven't been looking at is the way that their skins show up in game. I think they have some of the best skins in the game too. I think their jerseys are really, really cool. I'd love to see what this would look like inverted with like the orange stripe with blue letters. But did they have I think they had an alternate jersey. They had these. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I read why they made these choices, but yeah, that doesn't do much for me. I am going to put London in the A tier. I think that they do a lot of things really well, but I do think that especially like the random white bar at the top where London lives, like I think kind of is weird too. So I'm cool to put them in the A tier because I think it's really strong, but I don't think it's as cohesive as some of the other brands would be. All right, let's look at the LA Gladiators. All right. Couple things to point out here. I love the shield. I love the branding. We haven't been talking about like hashtags or whatever, but like the shields up branding, really, really awesome. Something that's been there since season 1. They had really strong jerseys in season 1. I think they have really strong jerseys. I think the font choice makes their jerseys continue to be strong, even with the like fresh designs. And I think having purple as their singular primary color is really strong as well. It feels very royal. I like the way that they use the LA. They highlight the LA in the Gladiators logo. It matches with their like Gorillas branding too. I think the LA Glads branding is really, really strong. They did not have good alternate jerseys, if I remember. I think their third kits were hideous. Yeah. I'm not really feeling this. Like, I don't like the oversized. It reminds me of, who are the teams that have, there was a team that did an oversized cat logo on their football helmet back in the day. I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't for the life of me remember it. Worst NFL helmets of all time. So I feel like it was like a historically bad helmet that had like a huge cat on it. The Boise State helmets back in the day were bad too, that had the oversized horse. But yeah, I do not like the LA Gladiators alternate jerseys, but and here was the back of them. But outside of that, their current branding, which is what we're really looking at here, like, love the shield logo, love the purple, very strong branding, very unique. I'm going to put them in the A tier as well, and I think I'm going to put them above the London Spitfire. So, all right, let's move on to the New York Excelsior. I'm going to be honest, guys. The red, white, and blue does not move me. And this is a team that I think was trying to establish itself as like a lifestyle brand back when they first started. But I just don't think the logo is very interesting at all. It's just a bunch of X's. Like, on closer inspection, it doesn't really show much of anything. I don't think the name Excelsior is super exciting. Nobody really ever refers to them as the New York Excelsior. They call themselves NYXL. And so I think because of all of those reasons, it's not a super strong branding. They haven't been super successful the last few years either. Did they have an alternate? I don't remember them having an alternate jersey. It doesn't look like they did. But yeah, if these are their current jerseys, I mean, the font's okay, but I don't think oh, well, where was it? This is where, oh, it's right here. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't do much for me. It feels very uninspired. Is it as on? And I don't know. I feel like this might be more uninspired than Valiant. Like, at least Valiant tried to, do something a little creative, taking something in game and making it, using the negative space. This is just looks like a flag with X's in it. So I'm sorry. I know NYXL fans like loved the lifestyle feeling of the brand when it first started, but I don't think they've really like grown much over the last few years. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, it just feels old and outdated. All right, let's talk Soul Infernal, which we talked about a little earlier, and how I think I would feel differently about this logo and about this rebrand if the Vancouver Titans didn't exist and if the Paris or Vegas Eternal didn't already exist. I think Philly in themselves, here's their two branding side by side. I think Philly had a very interesting kind of approach to their brand. I think it was unique. It felt very inspired, very unique. I don't think Infernal does. I don't think Soul Infernal. I don't know. This person recolored the Vancouver logo with the soul, and I just, obviously there's differences, right? But when I see this, I just think Vancouver, and because of that, but like in comparison to the others, other branding in the league, I don't know. I put this very, very low, and I would like to have seen this company, like to have seen the Philly Fusion ownership group take the opportunity to be like, we're going to do something that's really going to land with our South Korean audience. I don't know what that looks like. I haven't heard of that this is it, right? But I think given that Vancouver exists, you know, not super exciting. Also, black and red yet again in the color scheme. We've seen that already with the Atlanta Rain. We're going to see it again two more times as we go forward. I don't know. I think this is really uninspired. Do I think it's as uninspired as NYXL? Not necessarily. I think I'm going to put them between Valiant and NYXL. We haven't seen their jerseys, but I think you can assume it'll be like, I think it'll be a red jersey, black banner, gold lettering. And then their alternates will be white, red banner, black lettering. Would be my thought. I feel like we're motoring through this last half, but I think you guys have kind of like gotten where I'm at, where I'm heading, what I'm talking about, like my big talking points for each of these. Soul Eternal logo. Oh, I meant Soul Dynasty. I love Soul Dynasty branding. I think their primary logo is very, very strong. I think the gold really, really pops. The gold on the black looks really great on their jerseys. I love the Soul Dynasty branding. I don't think there's anything like hidden within it that makes it much different. Maybe I'm missing something or makes it like super unique, but I just think it's a really strong logo. It's really strong branding. Here are their jerseys. I love how bold the gold looks on both the white and the black background. I think I'm going to put the Soul Dynasty in the A tier, which might feel weird after, because it has a similar composition to the Titans logo, but they kind of arrived at the same place at the same time, right? Like they both came into the league. And, I think Soul was there year one. Vancouver was there year two. So Soul, an OG brand, I'm going to put them in the A tier, and I think I'm going to put them at the top of the A tier. I think this is a better brand than the Glads. Although I think some of the other surrounding branding stuff like the Shields Up might put LA over the edge just overall, but I think in what we're looking at visual design for the brand itself, I'm gonna go with Dynasty with the Soul Dynasty. All right, let's look at the San Francisco Shock. If I can spell. To be fair, I really like their gray jerseys. I love these jerseys. Just basic gray and black. I think their decision to use the orange very sparingly. Their OG jerseys were disgusting. These things are hideous with the like light gray on the shoulder with the orange and then the yellow stuff in the middle. I think this approach to their logo is a lot better. However, I don't think, is this how like it looks on a Richter scale? Like what does a Richter reading look like? So I understand they wanted to go with like something a little bit cleaner. But this looks less like shockwaves and more like audio waves, right? And I think you're going San Francisco Shock for like the earthquakes, like the Richter scale, the aftershocks. And so I don't think the logo is the strongest design. I like this color palette better. So it's definitely better than this logo right here. And then also, if you look at the word shock long enough, it looks really weird. And then I do like their jerseys. They just have the very basic like black and gray I like the little orange accents here, but I think like these aren't. This is very middle of the road for me. Also, their alternate jerseys were fucking disgusting too. All of their jerseys look terrible in the first 2 seasons. I think I'm gonna put San Francisco in probably the C tier, and I think I'm gonna actually put them. I don't know. I think I have to put them over Chengdu because like the branding, the name, is still tied to the city of San Francisco. It's just it's not the best executed, I would say. All right, let's talk Shanghai Dragons logo. OG, very simple. I love the dragon forming the S. It does maybe have a little bit of that, like, is it called, what's it? The middle school S? Is that what it is? Yeah. The cool S, the super S, the Superman S. It's got a little bit of this vibe to it, but not like overly. Not, I think overall this branding makes a whole lot of sense. I do like that they've started going a little cleaner with their logo design, trying to move a little away from the yellow that made it feel kind of McDonald's-y. So I appreciate this. And then let's look at their jerseys. Yeah. I think this is so much cleaner. Like they still have the little yellow accents on the logo itself, but they don't lean into it too much in there as opposed to their original jerseys that you see here with like everyone wanted to give the Florida Mayhem shit about looking like McDonald's. I think the Shanghai Dragons look just as much like McDonald's in year one. And I don't feel like as many people said anything about it, but I think the logo design is really clean. I think, the use of the dragon to make the S for Shanghai is really good. I'm going to put them in the B tier, and I think I'm going to put them above the Boston Uprising if it'll let me move. There we go. So yeah, I think that's good. All right, let's move on. Let's do Toronto Defiant. I think I just have an aversion, similarly to like red, white, and blue, to black, gray, and red. I think I just have an aversion to it. Like, it just doesn't seem super inspired. I think, what exactly is the TD in this formation supposed to like represent? Am I missing something with their design? I don't know. I don't think I am. Let's see. Team identity. Represent the strength, character, and resiliency. Is resiliency a word? I feel like every time I see the word resiliency, it just means the same thing as resilience. Yeah. I don't know. That's not worth getting into. Branding work was done in partnership with the Overwatch League and Overactive Agency of Record, Diamond Martin, the logo and official color, blah, blah, blah. Displays the letter T inscribed in the letter D in the team's colors. So nothing beyond that. It was just like, we are the Toronto Defiant. Let us use our letters in some sort of combination to make a logo. We'll add some, jagged accents to it. And I am going to put this down here in the D tier, probably below Valiant, but above Soul Infernal. If it'll let me. There we go. Sorry, Toronto. Hate that for you. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to the Vancouver Titans logo. Already talked a little bit about this. First of all, it's not a super uncommon color combination, but I still fucking love it. The electric green on the royal blue looks so good. It looks similar to I can't remember the hockey team. The Canucks, the old school Canucks jerseys. I think leaning into the like Yeti for the wild woods of Vancouver, it's similar to the old school Vancouver Grizzlies logo. They didn't have as bold a color, but look how fucking wild and menacing and mean that old logo looked back when they were. And there's like the play on it for the Memphis Grizzlies right here. But I love that they like leaned into that wilderness, aggressive, wild look for the Vancouver Titans. I think their first year leaned really into that and their play style as well, which was a lot of fun. I think their jerseys are really cool. Are we doing market research? Yeah. No, we're just we're taking my baby smooth design brain and reacting and ranking teams on how cool their branding is. So yeah, I think their jerseys look really solid too. So I don't know. I think I give points to teams that lean into like their geographical like lore. And the Vancouver Titans with that on top of their bold color choices, I'm going to have to put them. I think I'm going to put them in the A tier. I think I'm probably going to put them at the bottom of the A tier. And I think the more I look at this, the more I'm like, I like London more than I like LA from a visual perspective. So I think I'm going to move them over LA. How is SFC? It's got Giga Giants vibes. I agree that it has like the Giants vibes, like attaching itself to the local lore in terms of like another pro team. My big thing was just I don't like the well, and they've leaned away from a lot of that. So we were looking at their new jerseys, right? So I don't know if you've seen their new jerseys, but they have this black jersey with the gray. They have this gray jersey with the black. It's very basic. It's very basic. And then I feel like with their logo, they were trying to go for. I would have much rather them gone with the like, with the like shockwave, but made it look like the Golden Gate Bridge or something like that. So that's the whole reason I've put them in C. Is like I think it was in even like in their old school branding where they leaned more into the orange. It still wasn't very like San Francisco Giants. These jerseys were fucking hideous, and these alt jerseys were even worse. So that's why I put them in the C tier. I'm glad that you came in, questioned it, and then I put my justification and I convinced you. That makes me feel really, really good. All right, let's go to the Vegas Eternal. We talked about this a little in the pre-show. I think this is really fucking lazy. I think this is the Utah Jazz of the Overwatch League. Utah doesn't have a goddamn thing to do with the world of jazz. It makes no sense why they're like, we're going to put the word jazz on top of these jagged mountains in our design or whatever. This is a holdover from them being the New Orleans Jazz, moving to Utah, and they just continued to lean into it, right? And sort of like we're just looking at Memphis or Vancouver Grizzlies moving to Memphis, kept the Grizzlies moniker. This is, I think, just as egregious. Everything the same. They added a little bit of orange accent to it. They didn't change the font or anything. They continued moving forward. I know that like this rooster has significance in France. I don't know exactly what it is. In fact, I should probably look it up. Significance of rooster in France. The Gaelic rooster was widely used as a religious symbol, the sign of hope and faith. So that's what the French rooster is. It just doesn't fit Vegas. The Utah Coors Lights. That's right. That would be some dope ass branding. And you know, Coors Light would probably pay for a pretty penny to pay a pretty penny to have that kind of representation in the NBA. I think this was just lazy. I think they should have leaned more into being in Vegas. And you know, they brought over Legion as well. I think we're gonna see a Vegas rebrand of one, if not both of these teams as we move into the 2024 seasons. We'll probably see Call of Duty League get their rebrand first. But yeah, it's really, really lazy. I'm also like, I don't know much about Vegas. I've been to Vegas once and I didn't, as my family would say, or my wife's family would say, I didn't lose anything in Vegas. I don't want to, I have no interest in going back. Don't really care to go back. But there's got to be more to Vegas culture than a poker chip and just slapping your old ass logo on a very low pixel, now that I'm looking at it, poker chip. It all just seemed so uninspired. Like, at least with the Soul Infernal rebrand, they tried to adopt like some aspect of the region that they were relocating to. Vegas didn't try any such thing. They just changed their name. If this was the Paris Eternal and we were looking at this, this would rank higher for me. I think color palette wise, they did a really bad job with the Eternal. Like the dark blue, dark red was really difficult to see. I think with this being the Vegas Eternal, I'm going to put this all the way under the NYXL in the D tier. Totally uninspired, mailed in. We just need to get our team over to Vegas. We don't really want to do anything additionally outside of that. So we're going to put them here. And then finally, we're going to go with the Washington Justice. So I have a friend of mine named Beal. I think he works for Riot now. But we used to do esports podcasts together, and he was super excited about a team, an Overwatch League team, finally being in Washington. And I love the name for this team. The Washington Justice sounds really fucking tough. But this logo, guys, super uninspired to me. Like, this just red, white, and blue. You've got the Washington down here at the bottom. Like, to me, this feels like they just thought of the very first like level of imagery that comes to mind when you think about Washington as the capital city, and they phoned it in. When we look at all of our other Washington Nationals, same, we have it's the same vibe, the same feel. If we look at the Washington Capitals, we've got same vibe, same feel. And I get that like you want to tie yourself into the geography that you're at, but let's try to be a little more creative than just like super patriotic. Like this looks like it could also be the seal of a government agency and nobody would bat an eye, right? Nothing about this screams esports. Like, nothing about this screams unique. The red, white, and blue is, easy. The only real like Washington team that has tried to, make some changes and moves is the Washington Wizards, and yet they still come back here. And it's like, we have a fucking wizard. It's a fucking wizard. And it's just a basketball. We just have a basketball. And so I think Washington Justice is the same way. Tough name. Everything else about it just falls short to me. I think I'm going to put the Washington Justice, if I can find my fucking tier list. Did I close out of my tier list? Hold on. Oh, I'm about to be so mad, guys. Okay, it saves it. I didn't realize it saved your progress. Okay. I think I'm going to put the Washington Justice. Look, D is like totally uninspired, doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like, none of this holds any attachment to their cities. I think because of that, the Justice can't go in the D tier. Like, it automatically, obviously screams DC. I think it's still more inspired than the Rain logo, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We've learned a lot of unflattering things about pandas today. We watched a panda take a shit earlier on the stream. I am going to put, I think we're going to put the Justice just under Chengdu. I really need an NBA 2K League tier list after tier list next. I think a lot of 2K League teams have really bad branding. I think a lot of 2K League teams logos are really, really bad. I'll just put that out there. I would be hard pressed to find an S tier 2K League brand. But yeah. I would also feel weird doing it since I work with a 2K League team. But I think that, I feel pretty good about where we ended up here. I thought we were starting to put too many teams in the S tier, but I think it was just we had so many in a row that we're ending up in the S tier. I think we have a pretty well balanced tier list here, and we're organized within our tiers. I think it's really a coin toss between the Spark and the Outlaws, and maybe even the Mayhem. In fact, it might be such a close tie between these three that it would move the Fuel down into the A tier. Because I think that all of these have very, very strong branding elements to them. The unique color palette of the Hangzhou Spark alongside the like finger gun that's created like a hand gesture that their entire fan base does. The Houston Outlaws' creative use of the pistols forming the head of the bull, I think, is really tight. And then the Mayhem, like really season one leaning into the Junkrat idea, and then with the bomb and the palm tree lit fuse, I think there's enough creative. Like all of those have little creative touches that just give a hint of where they're located, right, and who they are. I think Dallas Fuel has a little bit of that, but they just didn't quite go far enough in finding those elements. So, yeah. And then I'm really glad we moved Boston out of A tier. And I'm really sad that if anyone comes back and watches this video on YouTube, they're going to watch the first 15 minutes wondering what the fuck I was thinking having Boston in the A tier. So, yeah, Boston right here, dead center of the tier list, I think is the exact right place for them. And then I feel really strong about the D tier here. Like, these teams could all just do way better. Like, everything in the C tier has certain elements that I'm okay with. Outside of maybe Rain, like I don't know. Rain might belong in the D tier for me, but I'm feeling good about this. I'm curious to see what you guys in the comments think. So feel free to drop your own tier list in there. I'm going to save and download this as well. Oh, I just want to download the image. I want to download it to my desktop. I also don't want to dox any possible footage that I might have in here. So we're gonna put this here. But yeah, curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know. But yeah, congrats to the Hangzhou Spark, the #1 best brand in the Overwatch League. Not biased by the fact that my wife totally agrees with that.